Today I am going to try to teach you how to play Folsom Prison Blues by Johnny Cash, with an emphasis on playing it as it was played originally. I do not claim to be a good guitarist, vocalist, or artist in general. However, for those looking to play this song as it was originally performed, you've come to the right place. Feel free to leave comments correcting my interpretation. One thing you should know about Johnny Cash and his band when they first started is that they were not that good of guitarists. Sorry to offend people, but they really weren't. Which is actually kind of good for us because it makes it easier to play. There are only a few key techniques that you need to know in order to play this song. That is alternate bass drumming, string bending, how to hammer onto a note or a string, and right and left hand muting, which is either your strumming hand or the hand you use to make the notes with, as well as where to pick to make the pitch of the sound change, which I'll explain later. First, I'll break the song into its parts. We have four different players in Johnny Cash songs. We have Luther Perkin on the electric guitar, Johnny Cash on the acoustic guitar, and some guy that nobody ever remembers on the bass guitar, as well as sometimes a snare drum player who's using different sort of sticks. I forgot what they're called, rake sticks or brush stick, drumsticks, I'm not sure what they are. But he is not in this song, so we won't focus on either him or the bass guitar. Luther Perkin has essentially three different parts: his intro/outro, which are exactly the same, his solo, and what he does during the verse as sort of a backdrop to Johnny Cash's playing. This is pretty straightforward. Here's also the first encounter of string bending. If you don't know that, I'll show it to you really quickly. Also, for all Luther parts, you'll need to know to pick near the bridge of the guitar to give it a twang sound. Here's how it's done. Please note that the majority of Luther Perkin's part in the song I used Blurred 21's videos and is posting on an alternate site to create these. I'll break the solo into three parts. This is the first part. Here's where hammering comes into play. Here's a transition that he does really quick before he continues on to the second part of the solo. This part is hard to get down at first. It is at first a power chord and then a D minor 7 chord shape on the 5th fret, followed by a D on the 9th fret. With the exception of the first run through of the power chord, that is the open A to the 2nd fret on the G that comes before the open note on the A, the rest has an open note played on the high E followed by an open note on the B at the end of the chord shape or part. These are there so Luther has time to get his fingers down to the guitar and ready for the next chord shape. This is played once as follows. This part of the solo is pretty simple to get down, and I deviate from Blurred 21 on how this part is done. The parts in which the bottom 3 to 4 strings are being played 3 times is played as down, up, down. Here's how I play it, which will probably deviate from the way I put it on the slide for various reasons. The first parts are basically plucking of strings E, A, and D in a pattern while forming the different chord shapes with your left hand. The picking pattern is E string once, D string once, A string once, D string twice, and repeat. Luther does change how he does these parts over the years very slightly, but for time's sake I'll only teach the version he uses at Folsom Prison Live. This part is where this is the part where right hand muting comes into play. Also, you may want to combine this with picking as close to the bridge as possible. Same picking pattern as before, but with fingers in the shape of an A chord. Again, same picking pattern, but with a B7 chord shape, there's no transition from the B7 to anything, so I like to just start back with the E again. I'll show you real quick. Johnny Cash used four main chords in his early years, that is E, A, B7, and D. Eventually he later moved on to other chords like G, C, and A minor. Johnny Cash's main part is in the verse. To know what chords he plays and when, refer to this section below for the link to a website containing this. However, only focus on the parts where it says when the chords are played. Ignore the thing about the cable being on the second fret, that's wrong. The chords themselves are easy, as is the strumming. However, the strumming can be quite tedious for those who have no practice at it. Johnny Cash utilizes a technique called alternate bass drumming. If you can learn how to alternate bass drum, you will essentially know how to play Johnny Cash songs, like every single one of them, at least for his part in them. Here's how it's done. And here's how it is played as a B7. Note that for the low E string, some people mute it with their thumb, left-hand muting, or other do it as an open note or played with the second fret being held down. I rarely use the muted version, but feel free to use any different version you like. Here are the three different versions. For the solo, Johnny Cash either isn't playing or is using a technique called left-hand muting, which he does throughout the entire Walk the Line song. It's a really good example. Left-hand muting is placing your hand over the strings, in this case all of them, with just enough pressure so they don't ring out but sound dull. The strumming pattern on here is similar but slightly different from his alternate bass drumming pattern. Also, his hand slides down the neck, making the pitch increase at times. Also, he strums on the neck of the guitar. Here's how it's done.